Even though community association living is challenging by nature, you don't have to feel overwhelmed. In this section of our webinar, I explain how associations can avoid common reserve funding mistakes and which goals board members should and shouldn't be pursuing. I'll then address how to minimize your reserve funding requirements by how and where you can safely save on your spending. The bottom line is that there are some things that work and some things that don't work. And that's the perspective that is sure to help you at your association. I'll start with a few mistakes to avoid. The first is failing to update your reserve study. It's easy right here to look back on the last few years with high inflation and supply chain issues and understand that a roof replacement cost from 5 years ago in 2019, actually 2020, is not what a roof is going to cost today. You need to base your planning on accurate information. Old information does not provide good guidance. That's why a national recommendation, best practice, update your with site visit at least every third year. You can't get too far behind. The next is to avoid delaying projects. You generally don't save money by delaying a project. It still needs to get done. It doesn't go away. And when you get around to it, sometimes it costs more because it needs additional work. So look at this wood siding on your screen. By delaying painting it a couple of dollars per square foot, they now need to replace it at $15 to $20 a square foot, about 10 times as much. So they just shot themselves in the foot. Another common mistake I see is spending reserves carelessly. I see new board members coming in, and they see $100,000 or $1 million in reserves, and they think, wow, great, no problem giving staff a raise or an end-of-year bonus or paying the big insurance bill or redecorating the lobby or maybe add a pickleball court at the side of the association. Reserves are funds set aside for a specific purpose. Every one of those dollars already has a job. And even with all that cash, it looks like a lot of money, most associations are underfunded. So that money is not available to be spent on non-reserve projects. And the flip side of that problem is neglecting budgeted reserve transfers or making only partial reserve transfers. The roof and the asphalt laugh at that kind of thinking because they're deteriorating on schedule, no matter if your budget is tight or not. Deterioration is an unstoppable freight train heading down the mountain. Skipping required reserve funding only leads to problems. And as I was thinking about this webinar, I started thinking like a NASCAR or an Indy 500 race. Mother Nature and Father Time are continuously racing around the track. If you slow down or stop in pit row, you're going to get behind. They're going to keep on lapping and you're just going to fall behind. So keep on racing. Keep making those reserve transfers. You've got to do your level best to keep up with ongoing deterioration. And another mistake is being casual about your investments. Whatever yours is, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million, we see two mistakes all too often. And they are letting your reserves grow over the $250,000 FDIC insurance limit, meaning they are at risk of being lost. And the second is not maximizing your interest earnings. Maximizing reserve interest going from 1% to 4% nowadays is easy money to be adding to reserve funding. It's often tens of thousands of dollars per year. And it's easy, really. If your bank can't do it, if your management company can't direct it to get done, there's companies like HOAinvest.com that specialize in helping associations safely manage and maximize their reserves. You don't have to do it. Just need to make a phone call or email or two. And all of a sudden, a lot of money going into your association. Finally, in this list is a mistake we see condo associations making. Now, a condo association needs to be setting aside at least 10% of its total budget for mortgages in the association to be Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac qualified or approved. Being Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac qualified is important because it allows home buyers to get the most attractive mortgage terms or rates available. And for those prospective buyers, low interest means they can afford to pay higher home prices. So being Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac qualified boosts home prices. And you do that very simply by setting aside at least 10% of budget towards reserves. It's not a big ask. Keep in mind that most associations need to set aside 15 to 40% of the budget towards reserves to offset ongoing deterioration. So 10% is just a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac minimum target. It's usually inadequate as a reserve funding target. So setting aside less than 10% of total budget towards reserves, it's a big mistake on two levels. It damages your prospective homeowner's ability to get attractive loans, and it probably means that you're not setting aside enough cash. So remember the goal? The goal is to have enough money to be able to do your scheduled reserve projects on time. And how do you win? You win by preparing in advance, just like any sports team, any orchestra, any dance, any organization prepares in advance. The way you do it is collect the dollars and you spend wisely over time. And I spoke about winning, so let's talk about rules of the game. There's actually two sets of rules, reserve rules and board member behavior rules. Let's talk about reserve rules first. And there are 4 rules. Expenses are inevitable. Remember, Mother Nature and Father Time are driving the bus here. The board is responsible to manage expenses and pay the bills of the association. That's just the way it is in this community association world. Delays doing projects regularly means the projects get more expensive. And finally, the homeowners always get stuck paying the bills. You're never going to do the homeowners a favor by ignoring the reality of expenses and delaying projects or pretending they're not there. The homeowners are always going to get stuck paying. And the second set of rules is the business judgment rule. It's the board member rules by which their decisions will be measured. So in order to be defensible, board member decisions need to be made in good faith, which means they were loyal to the needs of the association over their own personal interests, like I want to save time or I want to save money. Number 2, they need to act in the best interests of the association, like they were elected to do, meaning follow the governing documents and provide quality services and care to the association. And number 3, through making reasonable, prudent, informed decisions. Now, just like I was, and just like you all were the first time you were board members and managers, you can probably remember your first board meeting. You can't be expected to be experts in everything, but board members are expected to ask questions and seek help when you don't know the answer. I reached out to our manager so many times the first few months after I was president. I reached out to our landscaper. I reached out to our roofer. What's going on here? What can you tell me that I need to know? So we're here as reserve study providers to provide guidance, helping board members make wise green checkmark decisions when it comes to reserve planning. So don't feel that we're inaccessible. If you have a question, reach out to your reserve study provider. First illustration of this. You may be wondering, are your reserves adequate? Well, there is a definition in the 2023 updated National Reserve Study Standards, and it's shown on your screen. It's a combination of reserve fund size being basically big enough and a stable and equitable funding plan that provides funding for all the anticipated upcoming reserve projects without reliance on last minute special assessments or loan. That's the definition of adequacy. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. Stability, funding, sufficient funds so the projects can get done on time. So it's a combination of cash in reserves and a funding plan that's going to be smooth and reliable and faithful. And the result will be that you have sufficient funds to get things done at the right time. So if you're not comfortable with answering this question at your association, ask your reserve study provider. Are we okay? Are our reserves adequate? And they should reference this simple sentence here and give you a clear explanation. And anyway, you're going to want to know because it's probably required in your governing documents that you set aside sufficient funds for the care of the property. So know that, pursue that. All right, let's turn the corner to funding obligations. What are some advanced concepts here? Remember, it's an ongoing race. The funding needs to keep up with the rate at which things are deteriorating. The first, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, is to put the funds to work by having the bank step up and fund reserves in a meaningful way. It's great to have a lot of interest coming in because that way your homeowners aren't paying the entire bill themselves. And that means maximizing your interest earnings. There's going to be a little bit of a tax bite out that. You might lose 20, 25%, maybe 30% of the interest that you get, but it's so worth it getting that higher interest. The second is to perform your ongoing preventive maintenance. Taking care of things makes them last longer, which saves you money. Money spent on maintenance is money well spent. Third, execute your projects on time, which eliminates that expense of deferred maintenance when the scope and cost of a project goes up because there's more damage that's occurred over more time. And the fourth is a nuance that most people get completely wrong. They think that associations with a strong reserve fund are setting aside the most towards reserves. That's wrong, and that's actually the opposite of the truth. Remember that the costs are stable, they are what they are. We're talking about funding here. Associations with low reserve funding, not very much cash in the bank, have to make up for their low cash in the bank with special assessments. And those associations with a weak reserve fund have to set aside much more than their rate of deterioration, what we'll call catch up mode, to make up for reserve funding not done by prior owners or those special assessments. Their rate of reserve funding is high because they've got to collect the funds necessary in a short period of time that prior boards didn't do. So, associations with a strong reserve fund, they're already prepared. So, they're at their rate of reserve funding. It's smooth and stable. It's actually lower than those associations that are in catch up mode. It's kind of like you have to step harder on the gas on a freeway on ramp than you do when you're moving steadily along with the flow of traffic. When you're in catch up mode, you're stepping on the gas and it's costing the association more money. But I got one more, and that's how to save on your reserve study itself. You can, of course, pay us for a full create from scratch reserve study, but with regular site visit updates every third year, your reserve study provider gets into a pattern. It's not a big project for your reserve study professional. Reserve studies cost based on the hours that they expect to spend on your project. And if it's a regular recurring project, the hours are less and it's less expensive. Now, remember that even in between that every third year project, you can get no site visit updates to tune that reserve study to make it even more accurate and to give your reserve study provider in between sneak peek at what's going on at the association. And those no site visit updates, the cost is almost trivial. So that's how you stay on track. You get current costs, current understanding of your reserve obligations, and you get prepared for upcoming projects. And this is how great strategy for playing to win the game that we talked about a few minutes ago. Having sufficient cash to be able to do your projects on time. All right, let's talk about spending. If you save on your spending, your reserve funding requirements are lower. But first, what really is saving? What doesn't save money is stalling or delaying projects because, again, those projects still need to get done. Maybe there's a few exceptions like a rec room water heater that no one uses because no one goes to the bathroom in the rec room and washes their hands. No one notices that, but that's the exception, and that's a trivial kind of project anyway. But your regular reserve projects, they still need to be accomplished. So stalling, you just risk them getting more expensive as you delay. Think asphalt, think painting, think roofing. So in general, you have to be very careful about stalling or delaying a reserve project. If you have any concerns about if you can or shouldn't, check with your reserve study professional. They'll give you some inside scoop on that. And one question that I had, I think just a week ago, was someone who said, I can save on my reserves by spending this $5,000 out of the operating account. What do you think about that? And I was thinking, well, it's still $5,000, so you're not saving any money. You're just spending it from the right pocket instead of the left pocket. So that's not really saving. You're still spending the money. So cash for every expense comes from the homeowners, no matter what pocket it comes from. So let's talk about how do you actually save cash. And one way is to perform your projects efficiently by coordinating them together. So if you can have the flooring installer lay the hallway carpet and the stairwell carpet at the same time, that's going to save them time, which lowers their price. Same with doing interior remodel projects like a clubhouse or a common room remodel all together. Painting, flooring, furniture, lighting, things like that. Or having a painter do all your accent painting at the same time. Think wood trim, ironwork, what else? Front doors, things like that. Okay. So when you save them money, you lower their bid price. We like that. And take good care of your assets. I mentioned this earlier. Preventive maintenance is the key. Do projects on schedule to care for the community. Has two big benefits. One is the place looks nicer, increasing pride of ownership and property values. And the second is every dollar spent on preventive maintenance lowers your reserve funding by that much and more. So it's money well spent. Don't get cash sensitive where you just don't want to spend money on touch up painting because you're going to shoot yourself on the foot with your reserves on that. That wood fence is going to only make it to 12 years instead of 15. So take good care of your roof, take good care of your painting, take good care of your decking, take good care of all the things around your association because you want to stretch the reserve project useful life as much as possible. You do that with regular preventive maintenance. So this is a visual about cycling your projects together. The top half of the page here is cycling your trim paint, front door paint, ironwork paint, maybe every 5 years. Boom, do them all together. Every 5 years, do them all together. Every 5 years, do them all together. If you scatter them around, you're mobilizing the painter to come out. It's going to be net more expensive. Or the same with the hallway paint or the carpet replace. Or, as I said a moment ago, carpet, hallway carpet, and stairwell carpet, things like that. Coordinate your projects together to get the best cost from your service providers. And be wise about taking good care of your things. This is a concept we call layering your projects, where it's one boiler, but you have a repair cycle that occurs at the midway point of its life. So every midpoint of its life, you have a repair, and then you replace it, repair, replace it. It's a great way to maximize life, great way to have your reserve study give you a reminder, give you the cash to do these valuable projects. And so look at your reserve study to help you with getting your major projects done on time. Now, some preventive maintenance can be done out of operating fund. Some, like this one, can be done out of the reserve fund. If you have any concerns, again, check with your reserve study provider. Say, hey, what do you think about doing this project out of operating reserves? And they'll give you specific guidance for your association. And another thing, want you to think long term. Develop a good relationship with your plumber, painter, roofer, asphalt, all those kinds of things. Be a good account from a business perspective. A good account always gets the most favorable pricing, which means less cost to your homeowners. Discuss the projects far in advance, have the money ready from reserves, and do it at a time when it's convenient for them. It's going to be more expensive if you got your roofer up on the roof in the middle of a rainstorm, trying to do it when everyone else is trying to get the roofer's time. So get your major projects done in favorable times, pay on time, and get favorable pricing. At Association Reserves, we make the present less stressful and the future more secure. If you want to join us in this mission, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment down below on what you'd like to see us address in a future video. Let's plan for your best future.